guys, it's Ash from My Faith, and today we're going on week 8 of our Women in the Bible summer series, so we're almost done. And today we'll be going over Esther, and to get ready for Esther, you need to at least read Esther chapter 2 and then Esther 4, 15 through 17, which will answer the questions for today. But if you have more time, then I definitely recommend reading Esther chapter 2 through chapter 5 to get the whole story and bigger picture. So take your time reading that, and then we'll get right into the questions. So the first question is, who was Esther? And I just put a Jewish woman adopted by Mordecai, so feel free to add on to that if you want. The second question is, whether it was Haggai or Mordecai, Esther always took care to listen to their wisdom for her, instead of being quick to rely on her own judgment. Do you have trusted counselors when you're unsure of decisions you should be taking next? So I definitely have a couple different outlets. I have some wise mentors at my church that I feel like I can go to, and about that are my parents' age, and they've been through some of the life stages that I'm about to go through, so very helpful. I also do go to my parents for wisdom a lot as well, and yeah, just the church community in general is also a big help. It's just nice to have the different life stages at church for sure, because you do want those more experienced people to give you the wisdom and advice you might need for decisions you're unsure about what to do next for. The third question is, even with her new title of queen and a grand life in the palace, Esther still listened to Mordecai and never became too prideful. Has there been a time you became arrogant, and did God knock you down for it? What are some ways for us to stay humble as we progress through life? So to answer the first part of the question, is about being arrogant and God knock you down for it, I definitely went through a season where I thought I was better than my non-Christian friends, and that my little Christian group I had at my previous church was like the best thing ever, even though it really wasn't. It's kind of funny now to look back at it, like they were just people that partied on the weekends too, but just went to church, and that was like the only difference. And they just like were the checkbox Christians, so we all just kind of like played church, but then still thought, well, I at least thought I was better than non-Christians. So I'm definitely glad God knocked me off my high horse for that, and I lost that friends group and had to move on, which was like the best thing for me at that point, since I was getting very cliquish and like judgy of the other people that didn't go to church, even though we literally all did the same thing, like drink, party, and all that. So it was very hypocritical of me. So I'm definitely glad God knocked me down for that one for sure. And then me and girls have a couple answers for what are ways for us to stay humble as we progress through life. We definitely put the taking off my mask. Pastor Frank at my church has talked about this a few times. Like, you can't just wear that mask and pretend and like hide whatever's going on. So if you take it off, that keeps you humble for sure, because you're not trying to put on a front saying, look at me, look what I'm doing, I'm so with it, or whatever, when you're really not. So yeah, definitely taking off that mask is a big one. We put listen before speaking. I think that's a big one, because we're so quick to just want to speak before listening. So that'll definitely keep us humble if we're really taking in what the other person's saying, and reflect on that before speaking to them about whatever they're talking to us about. Being in the Word obviously will humble you, because you just think about all the goodness and grace God gives us, and that should really humble us. And that it's okay to not always have the answer. It's okay to tell people, I don't really know, let me get back to you about this, or whatever. Like, you don't have to pretend like you know everything, because that will definitely get you a little prideful. So it's definitely okay to just admit that you're not sure about something in the long run. And lastly, it's okay to accept prayers from others. Sometimes I think we can get prideful about that without even meaning to, like, oh, like, I don't want to bother this person or that, or like, this isn't big enough of a deal, or I don't want to look like I don't have it together and I'm burdensome and all that. But it's okay to ask others for prayers, and that'll definitely keep you humble as well, relying on that church community or whoever you're going to for prayers for whatever is bothering you. And the last question we have for today is, how did Esther prepare herself before facing possible death? Have you tried this before? So Esther fasted for 3 days with no eating or drinking. And she even got other people involved in it to like gather them all around and say, hey, let's all like fast, which I think is very powerful. And a powerful thing to do is just have a whole community like fast together over something very important, just like Esther was doing to save literally her people. But I've actually never done an eating or drinking fast. If you include like social media fasts and stuff like that, I've definitely done that before. But not eating or drinking. I would like to try that eventually, I'm pregnant right now, so I'm definitely not gonna try it now. But yeah, I think that would be interesting to try out, at least for like a day or so, or at least do like a liquid diet only fast, something like that. Because I've definitely heard people doing this before, and it's just very helpful and a great way to connect to God spiritually, because you are giving up those like physical needs to an extent, which I think is important to do. Well, those are all the questions I have for today, so definitely take some time to reflect on the verses and the questions. I always love Esther. It's such a great book to go over. So yeah, definitely I'll be thinking about some of these questions and how to stay humble and just the trusted counselors I have in my life. Definitely some good questions to think about. So yeah, thank you guys so much for checking out this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! How sweet the sound, it's